Hey, look, this opens in less than 2 years, right? I think it's 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
This is going to be a pivotal moment, I think, for Florida, and Disney needs to look. If it's a huge hit, they have to do something, right? Now, I've
Yeah.
been supportive of Disney, kind of waiting and seeing, because, and we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about this, but I've been real supportive of Disney waiting and seeing to see how Epic Universe actually does. I did a show. I was on WDW Pro's channel the other day talking about Epic Universe, and if Disney is necessarily worried, I don't think they're worried at the moment, because I don't think they're necessarily sold, including myself, on the idea that this is going to be an automatic home run, right?
Yeah.
This park will pack people in, but will it pack people in at the expense of the other two parks? That's the question. If this packs them in, but the studio park, the Universal Florida Studio Park, suffers and gets cannibalized because of this park, that's not necessarily a success, even though this one is packed. It's also about the revenue, the hotel stays. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but Daddy Josh's response to this is going to matter big time.
Huge. It's gonna be big. It will. I think it will test a DiMauro for sure in this role right here. How did Disney manage it at the time, and what their response was after. I think those are two. It'll be two big things here. But you talk about the mix and so forth, and how that goes. We see 4 IPs prominently featured here: How to Train Your Dragon, Wizarding World, Super Nintendo World, and Universal Monsters. As we now know, I believe they're calling it Dark Universe, is what they're calling it here. I'll say this, okay?
Should we go real quick? Should we go land by land and kind of just go through each one and kind of do it that way, or you want to do general first?
Yeah, we'll go land by land here.
Land by land. Okay.
General points out. I think the big thing for me is not just people, right? I think this park will get people. Where it comes from, big story. Whether it comes from Disney, whether it comes from Universal, that's to be determined. And I do think you're right. I think it has a better chance of coming from Universal, right? Dollars. Where do the dollars go first? That's going to be, I think, a bigger indicator. Because that, for Disney, it was not about the people. It was about, they're spending a lot more there than they are here. So let's right this wrong here. That's the big reason why they responded the way they did, right? With big franchises that have real merchandising appeal, and that's partially why Consumer Products was merged with Parks and Resorts in order to facilitate that. So here we have Super Nintendo World, which is going to have Donkey Kong, the Yoshi Ride, Mario Kart, Toad's Quick Service Cafe. Now, we've seen some of this ourselves, OG, but you think Donkey Kong and Yoshi will help that in this land here?
Yeah, I do. I think Donkey Kong is actually one of the more interesting aspects of Nintendo World. Look, I really enjoyed Super Nintendo World quite a bit. I don't think it's the absolute mind-blowing game changer it was kind of promised to be. I gotta be honest with you. It does feel like another Toontown. I think Mario Kart is a very fun ride. I don't think it's necessarily even a ticket, though. It's kind of a D+ ticket, which again, that's not, dude, I'm not shitting on it at all. The D+ ticket's fantastic, and I love the ride, But I didn't think that what the version of Nintendo World that we got is the game changer we were promised, to be quite 100% real,
Yeah.
I think with Donkey Kong, though, with the promise of that coaster and jumping the track and all that, in conjunction with the Mario Land and the Yoshi as well, I think this is going to be a very successful land. I think this is going to be impressive. And Nintendo right now has, I was telling Pro on his show, Nintendo has really never been more popular than it is now. The Super Mario Brothers movie is on track to. I think they just said it was on track to make $100 million opening weekend. Very good. I think this land will be I think families will like this land. Absolutely. I think honestly, I think this is the strongest part of this park, in my opinion. We'll get to the other ones. But I think
it's interesting. Yeah. I think I think this is the draw for this park, especially as it relates to families. I think this is really where it's at. Where when it comes to like, hey, we're gonna book a vacation for, hey, what if you have young kids? I think this is what gets them there. But I think for young families, the other area that's that's very intriguing to me is the How to Train Your Dragon portion, because that's really geared towards even people younger in Super Nintendo world, and this has been an area where they've really suffered. You know, the kids and below kind of thing. Super Nintendo World is one part of that strategy, but How to Train Your Dragon is the other. They have like an interactive boat ride where the people on the boat have like a spray war or spray off with the people on the shore and so forth. That could be kind of fun. There's like a number of flat rides. There's like a dragon's coaster. Think like Ninja almost, from what I understand, like a suspended coaster, but like a Mack rides, like one step above Barnstormer or Gadget Go Coaster, for example, right? That's kind of where they're at there. And there's also going to be the Great Hall Restaurant with that amazing How to Train Your Dragon show. I think providing two areas for which kids can actually play and which kids can actually enjoy the activities as much as the adults as they have traditionally done in Universal's parks in the past. I think this is a smart move here. But How to Train Your Dragon, it's not necessarily the obvious. You would have thought like a Minions land or something. Right. This is a very interesting choice on behalf of Universal, I think.
It's an interesting choice. I think it works better than Minions. Minions is one of those franchises. Yeah, for when you name your park Epic Universe, you're gonna want a franchise more like this. I don't think Epic when I think Minions. I think, and honestly, I think Universal has kind of gone to that Minions well a little too many times. I'm getting pretty burnt out. I know hey, look, there's an audience for it. I understand that. It just seems like they're really using it too much, in my opinion. I think this is a great IP for the park. It'll be interesting to see. This franchise, this trilogy was hailed as a fantastic trilogy. A lot of people love this trilogy. But it's weird because while people love the trilogy, I feel like the franchise itself has kind of fallen off in recent years. It's kind of a forgotten thing a little bit. So I'm kind of curious to see how that kind of pans out. I'm not really sure, but in terms of
it's supposed to be a live action show, right? There's supposed to be a live action movie that's going to be coming out soon.
Yes.
I will disagree with Pro a little bit. I don't think it necessarily hinges on that movie necessarily, this land anyway. I think it's really going to come down to execution. More than it is, let's say, people's association with it, like enthusiasm for it. Because people are going to go to Super Nintendo World, like I said. But I think they'll enjoy themselves here. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, though. Go ahead, OG. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. Yeah, it's all about execution. Let's see how this looks. I'm very curious about the roller coaster. You can't go too fast with that one because if it's for kids, you gotta be careful. So we'll see. We'll see. Now the Dark Universe thing, and this is where I'm probably gonna become the bad guy.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers. I say that's the bad guy.
This is where I become the bad guy, I think, because a lot of people are excited about this, and I get that.
Okay.
But with Dark Universe, I think there's a lot of question marks with this land, and I made that case on Pro's channel. I'm going to kind of elaborate on what I'm trying to say here.
Sure.
There is a difference between recognizable and relevant, right?
Yeah.
So Popeye the Sailor Man, Felix the Cat are recognizable characters. You can ask anyone on the street, you can show them pictures of both of these characters, and everyone will tell you who those characters are.
I would actually be surprised if you could do that nowadays, but I see your point.
Okay.
I see your point.
But you see what I'm saying? Yeah. They're recognizable, right?
Well, sure.
People know who these characters are.
Yeah.
But
you could do the same thing with Frankenstein and Dracula and those kind of characters, right? You can show them pictures, they know.
And they know. And that's exactly my point with this is these are recognizable characters. Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula. They're recognizable. But there's a difference between recognizable and a hot franchise, right?
Yes.
Is Felix the Cat moving merch? Is it a $1 billion box office character? Is Popeye doing anything? Is it selling anything? Is Frankenstein selling any merch? Moving any kind of merch? Is it making anything at the box office? It's not. They're recognizable, but they're not hot commodities right now. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing. Let's look at the past attempt or two in the theaters for these monsters. The last big one was with Tom Cruise. I mean, a huge Hollywood. This guy is hot, and he was even hot back then in 2017. The Mummy, the reboot, died a dog's death in the box office so bad it killed the entire Dark Universe cinematic universe. Universal just said, "No, we're not doing it." That's not good. You had The Invisible Man, which did well, but it only did well because the movie was only had a $7 million budget.
If I'm not
but
mistaken,
the movie
that wasn't the original intention for The Invisible Man either. Wasn't it supposed to be Johnny Depp?
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I believe it was, but go ahead.
Yeah, but it made a profit, but not many people had an interest in seeing it. It only made 70 million, like at the end of the day. So my thing here is that, and I'm not saying I just, people like to make assumptions. Like, I'm not saying it's automatically this land's going to be a flop, because it does come down to execution at the end of the day. I do think that is a huge element of it. I just don't think, aside from the nerds in our theme park space, I don't think there's a huge hunger out there from the normies necessarily for monsters. Now, even Disney dipped their toe into the monsters with a recent MCU show. The 4 Night by Werewolf, whatever that was called.
Sure.
Yeah, I forgot the exact name of it, but you guys know the black and white kind of noir, kind of horror show that Marvel did recently. Got great reviews. Didn't get a lot of views though. Not a lot of people actually watch that. And again, I know that's not Universal, but it's the same kind of Wolfman kind of genre that we're seeing here with the monster. So the product lately with monsters hasn't really resonated with normies. Another concern I have with this land is Halloween Horror Nights has been very, very successful for Universal. But now you're giving away a little bit of that for free all year. Now, I get it. The mazes are a big element of it and all that. That's going to be unique to Halloween Horror Nights. But when you're giving away an element of that same Halloween energy and vibe all year long, does that now cut into the Horror Nights? Because it's like Disney with a Villain's Land. This is actually, to be fair, this is actually very much a risk for Disney too. You build a Villain's Land in Magic Kingdom. Well, now how do you sell people on the upcharge for the Halloween stuff? Because one of the main draws for the Halloween stuff is meeting all the villains and all the villain stuff.
Sure.
Well, you're giving it away for free now all year in Villain's Land. Same thing here with Dark Universe. And I'm not saying that it's going to destroy Halloween Horror Nights or anything, or completely replace it. All I'm saying is you run a risk at cutting into it. There is a case to be made at some point where, well, we've been to Monsters Land. Do we really need to do Halloween Horror Nights? Kind of the same kind of energy, right? That's a big, for me, a big kind of risk and a big question mark. So I think this land has a lot of potential. I think it could be dope as hell. I think it could be really successful. But I think the theme park nerds are into it for sure. Based on box office, based on kind of general interest of monsters, I don't know if the normies are. And I'm saying I don't know because I really don't know. But your take, Dre.
I would agree with you. The normies probably not going to book a bunch of vacation packages on their own, right? And I think I see a similar strategy with the more adult-oriented areas of the park that I do with the more kid-friendly areas of the park. For example, I think Wizarding World is going to be the thing that people book for, the marketable thing that they can kind of tout and so forth, and that'll bring them down and bring them in. But I think the Universal Monsters area or the Dark Universe area might be the sleeper hit and keep them coming back. That's kind of my theory on it, right? Now look, Night Before Christmas. That didn't do anything at the box office. It died a dog's death there.
It did.
Came a cult classic, and then Disney started to slowly integrate it. Actually, with Haunted Mansion, right? Doing that over for the Halloween and Christmas time, right? And now it's a phenomenon that people sometimes book vacations just to see.
And Waterworld at Universal Hollywood. That movie is like Hollywood, like notoriously one of Hollywood's biggest flops. And that show at Universal Hollywood is a people pleaser. People love that show. It's fantastic. So again, it does come down to execution. So that's why you just don't know sometimes.
And it's going to have the
you know.
Kuka technology. It's going to be a version 2 of that because we've seen version 1, right? But we haven't seen anything else from that technology, at least by one of these corporate parks. What does that look like in a setting where a lot of these things are physical? That's going to be a very interesting thing, I think, for a lot of theme park enthusiasts and so forth. Fans, I think, are going to love it. APs are going to go there. But the normies, yeah, I don't think they're necessarily going to book just for those.
Right.
However, like I said, I think it's going to keep them coming back just because of the quality of execution there. I think they have something that could be, like I said, a sleeper hit of this thing. Wizarding World, though, I think that is going to get them there. As we've seen, actually, a lot of people, I know Warner Bros. Executives are a little bit tentative when it comes to the Wizarding World, right? With the Harry Potter franchise. However, the video game that just came out did huge numbers. Even, when there was some controversy surrounding that, it still did very, very well for that genre of entertainment. Moreover, yes, Fantastic Beasts, right? Didn't necessarily resonate with fans. But I'll contend, though, and my mom actually made this point when I was talking to her about Bob Iger's own comments talking about, the Marvel MCU and franchises, right? She's like, well, wait a minute. That's what happened with Fantastic Beasts. They introduced new characters and nobody liked, and that's why nobody went. And I'm like, that's exactly it, right? These the characters featured in the Wizarding World section, this Ministry of Magic, will probably feature characters that people know and that people want to see. I'd be sure on that. It was going to be Fantastic Beasts at one point. I believe that has changed from that point. Interesting thing, though, the theater show that was supposed to be part of this actually got cut. Now, what we're hearing is because Ministry of Magic Dark Ride or whatever that's going to be, and I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be, but apparently that grew in scale and so forth, and that kind of ate it up. But I do think it's kind of interesting how much has changed in this section alone. Yes.
Okay, I have thoughts on Wizarding World too. This is funny. Okay, so I think there's definitely issues with just more than Fantastic Beasts when it comes to the Harry Potter franchise. I don't think that Zaslav would be even considering a total look. Pro and it was heavily reported. I think it was Pro who actually broke the scoop. But I think some other outlets also ran that story that Zaslav and Warner Brothers are circling the tires on rebooting the mainline Harry Potter stories. Yep. And we were even surprised when we reached out to Kenna and Ashton. And because I thought, oh my gosh, I thought Harry Potter fans are not going to like this. This is going to be like Disney trying to reboot the original trilogy of Star Wars. We were kind of surprised how Kenna was cool with it.
Oh, and Ashton too. They were very enthusiastic about the prospect. And I was like, wow, that's very stunning. I'm surprised that they would have that opinion. It just shows, I think, the lasting power of the franchise, though, and how Zazzy and everybody, I mean, they've been bullish on it. They've been like, oh, we see this as a top-tier franchise. We just don't know what to do with it right now, is kind of the question.
But does that, we had a show with Story Geeks the other day, Jay Shear, who we love. Check out that show all about Mando. We talked about the sequel trilogy and the possibility that they might reboot the sequel trilogy.
Right.
Here's the thing. When a studio is thinking about rebooting something, it's usually not from a place. Well, it's usually not from a place of success necessarily. If it was on good ground right now, let me just say they wouldn't be trying to reboot it. That's all I'm trying to say.
You're not wrong. But to be fair, those films, I think, were viewed by the audience as successful. However, going back to your argument about the Dark Universe and relevancy versus recognizability, people recognize those characters, but are they the most relevant? Which I think that's why Zazzy and everybody else are looking to have a film presence of some kind, whether it be a reboot or a continuation, as we've kind of heard through the trades. They want a film presence somewhere in order to make it relevant again, at least for Warner Brothers' side. Now, for Universal side, remember, they're in a different game here. They capitalize off the films, yes, but through merchandise, through food, through attraction product. Right. And that, I think, in a theme park context, a little bit more evergreen than maybe WB as part of the acquisition just made.
Discovery.
Warner Brothers Discovery. Yeah. Sorry, a lot of stuff going on here.
No, there is.
As part of Discovery, like they're looking for returns on this investment, right? So they're looking to capitalize on it. I will agree with you. The Harry Potter franchise isn't in the best place right now, and that even goes beyond the problems with the author, let's say, and the controversy surrounding her. However, I think people in the theme park context are still enthusiastic about this and still want to see what this has to offer. But it's going to be interesting to see if that alone will be the draw here. I think there will be some overlap between the two demographics, between Super Nintendo World and Wizarding World, but these others, big risks for sure.
They are. And we also have to keep in mind, this is the third time they're going to the Wizarding World well. Does it start to lose? Like, you can keep going to the well. I mean, look, for example, if Disney built another version of a Star Wars land in DCA, at a certain point, you start to you start to lose its sort of like novelty.
True.
So is that kind of a thing here, in your opinion, where it's like, well, this is the third time we're going down this road again?
It's true, but that's the interesting thing, that what Universal did that Disney didn't. Disney delivered a all-encompassing experience, let's say, not any one place, an entirely new place where these stories and characters could live, right? Universal, on the other hand, gave you actual places. Diagon Alley, for example, Hogsmeade, and now the Ministry of Magic. And I think from Harry Potter fans' perspective, they want to see these places. So I think for them, it's a little bit different than how they see Star Wars. I will say, if they were to give us more Betsu, that wouldn't go over very well. But if they were to give us something like Tatooine or Hoth, would that be judged differently? I think it might be. And to Universal's credit, that's the route they chose, and I think it's working for them in the long run. I mean, they're getting all the blood they can out of that stone. Yeah. And I think they will be successful here. How successful? Big question.
Big question, yeah. Well, and a lot of the success might be out of their control, or success or lack of success might be out of their control. Yeah. We talked pre-show about the economy right now.
That's true.
The banking stuff right now is not looking good. I mean, how long is this? I say downturn, but it's more than that. I
get it.
It's how long does that last? This park's opening in a year and a half.
It is, and that's a real big if. I mean, if what I'm hearing is correct, the economy will have not rebound for several years, and yet this is coming out very, very shortly. The common refrain is, well, people will save discretionary income enough to be entertained. Well, you can be entertained in lots of ways, not just a premium experience like this.
Right.
Will it actually bring it in? That's a big question, OG, and one that Universal should be considering right now.
Well, and it also plays to the cannibalization thing. When people are short on cash, they're not doing 7 parks. They're not.
They're not going to, dining experiences each night. Maybe they get a snack in the park and they go home and go to I don't know. I mean, if you're on the West Coast, you go to Carl's Jr., right?
Yeah. But shout out to George.
Shout out to George, right? And maybe you don't stay in the most luxurious accommodations. Your spending goes down even when you do visit these places. So it's gonna be a fascinating thing here. When this park was thought up and crafted, they thought, I'm sure that the economic reality would be much different than where we are right now. So I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. Yeah.